The name of the show is So What's Your Problem? It's Talk Radio 790 KABC. I'm Stan Katzer, here with two very talented employment law attorneys, Cameron Shahabi and Mr. Raymond Baboyan. Mr. Raymond Baboyan. I'm kidding. I'm teasing him now. His name, it's Raymond Baboyan. See, this is how they remember your name now. Baboyan.
Do you know how many names I get called on a daily basis?
Baboyan and Shahabi. All right. We got it. You're out there. All right. I think we have a caller. To whom am I speaking with?
Ron.
Ron. Hi, Ron. How are you?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So I think, what's going on? You got a problem? You got an issue? Something you want to bring up for
I have
employment law
a little
attorneys?
issue. It's not a super amount of money
let the guys decide.
Okay. So I'm semi-retired.
Right.
I am a physician, and I cover periodically for other physicians who are out or whatever. Anyway, I got scheduled to cover a particular day at this clinic, and I got the email for it confirming that I was going to cover. The day that I was supposed to go there, I went, and when I got there, they said that they changed the schedule on me and that I was not needed.
So you showed up, and then they told you we didn't need you today.
Do they have some obligation to pay me?
Is there any California law about that or anything?
Well, my first question would be: do you have as a physician, do you have a contract with them or any employment agreement?
No, it was both verbal and by email. I cover them periodically.
And are you an employee or exactly? Yeah. See, we think alike. Are you
I'm a contractor? I guess I would be called.
Yeah. So you're a 1099,
right?
Yeah, they're just not very nice people. I mean,
that certainly changes the things.
I think they screwed up.
Yeah.
You know?
But basically, what we're asking an attorney, there's no state statute or anything that says.
Not for an independent contract.
No, you're an independent contractor.
Don't we have a verbal contract, an email contract?
Well, what does the email say?
That I'm to cover for that particular day.
What we mean is the law views independent contractors differently than they view employees. So to answer what Stan was hinting at, employees have certain statutory and legal rights if they're supposed to be on a schedule and they show up and then their boss says, oh, sorry, go home. Then they have rights in terms of minimal hours they would receive. Independent contractors don't necessarily share those same rights at all unless you have a contractual relationship that spells it out. So we would really need to take a look at any contractual relationship you have. I know you said there's emails. We'd be happy to take a look at that to give a more definitive response.
Yeah, Ron, I mean, if it keeps happening, then obviously you got to move on.
Right.
But you should also document this. I mean, respond to the email and say, I showed up, no one was there, so that if it happens again, you can document it again and keep a record of it, keep a written record of what's going on there. And but hopefully, if you let them know what happened, that you're disappointed with it, that this impacts your life, and that you had other opportunities that you passed up for them, then maybe they'll get the hint and they'll stop.
Yeah, Ron, let me ask you a question. So this email was just for this particular day of work, and when you showed...
it's for several days in this month.
Right, but the days were pointed out. I mean, they said this...
Yeah, the days are written down.
Well, I think he's got something to go by anyway.
That's in my mind, that's a contract.
It's kind of a legal thing.
It could be more of a breach of contract, right. But that's why I said we'd have to see the terms and get a better understanding of the big picture.
Okay.
And what's the value of it, if it happens a lot?
Mm-hmm. Ron, get this down. I mean, these guys will help you out whether there's a real case or not. Valiantlaw.com, Valiant, Valiantlaw.com, and ask for Raymond or Cameron. They'll help you out even over the phone. They're good guys.
Well, it's not a lot of money.
Ron,
one day at work.
Ron, they'll help you out. They're not charging you anything. The point is that it doesn't happen again, and it shows that you're serious. Now, you may be reluctant to get attorneys involved, but they'll just give you advice on what to do. They're not coming in to be your lawyers. They're just really good guys that are here to help the greater community.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so just you're going to contact the employer yourself and just say it's not fair. It's kind of a contract. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Well,
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Okay, bye-bye.
Keep drinking and call us next week. All right. Take care. All right. It is interesting, though, and I want listeners to know this. There's really a world of difference between being a 1099 contractor and an employee. And there are a lot of issues that come up these days
Absolutely.
About that.
There's a lot of new laws that just got passed about this as well. It's impacting a lot of businesses. Some businesses, some of those, the Ubers or the Lyfts are just saying they're not going to abide by it. They don't
Car
care.
washes. There's a lot of undocumented workers. All right, so let me ask Cameron. Cameron, you want to talk about maybe a case where you did have to go to court? What it might have been over some employee had been discriminated against or sexual harassment?
Yeah, we've had a lot of cases about that. I mean, that's primarily what we do. We've had we've gone against the biggest companies that there are.
Okay.
You name it. Big hotel chains.
And we're talking insurance companies or the employer themselves?
The actual employer themselves.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The employers, big, small. They make big mistakes. Surprisingly, people come to us all the time, and you'd think that a big company wouldn't make those mistakes, that they'd have an HR department, a human resources department that knows what they're doing.
Right.
But believe it or not, these HR departments, they mess up all the time.
Right.
They mess up big time, and they don't know the laws either.
Mm-hmm.
And so, our clients are discriminated against. We had an openly gay individual who was discriminated against. We've had women who have been badly sexually harassed, who keep getting sexually harassed, and their options are limited because, their manager, who do they go to? They don't know who
Can't go to the manager.
Can't go to the manager.
Yeah, you'll maybe getting fired, yeah.
Exactly. And then they face retaliation. And a lot of these individuals also, they got families to support. So they think and they ask us, well, what's going to happen? They don't want to lose their job.
Right.
They don't want to be sexually harassed.
They're afraid to go to anybody, yeah.
They don't make a lot of money. So it's tough, but it's very, it's rewarding.
I understand. So Raymond, let me ask you, what would good advice be if someone's listening right now and they're in that situation? Let's say the boss and the employee, male, female, whomever. Do you recommend documenting in a journal? Or what should they do? There's somebody that just keeps getting harassed.
Well, look, documenting is key. The first piece of advice I always tell is first give me a call. Setting that aside, document. And I know, as Cameron was talking about, and the public in general has that fear of retaliation. It's an understandable fear, but the law protects you from that retaliation, which is why we highly recommend you document. And that could be, for starters, send an email to Human Resources. Talk about what happened and use those magic words such as, I feel as though I've been harassed or discriminated against based on whatever protected class that is, based on my race, based on the color of my skin, based on my disability, and I don't appreciate it, and I want an investigation, I want something done, and put in detail what happened. If some people just don't feel comfortable doing that, and again, oftentimes the person you're reporting to is the person that's harassing you, and they're afraid to do so, at the very least, if you have that fear that I can't overcome, document it in a journal.
Right.
Document
Keep
it yourself.
Journal.
Email
I've
yourself.
I've heard that also.
Absolutely.
Today, Joe, said this to me, and he touched me on the shoulder.
Of course, and the reason being, there's common sense element to it too. Look, our memories fade in time. And what better evidence is there than something you wrote right on the spot, as opposed to 3 years later in the middle of a lawsuit where obviously you're financially motivated to testify in a certain manner. Right. You wrote this down years ago while it happened. It's much more credible at that time.
Right. Cameron, you want to add to that? Meaning, and follow-up question that I would have is, so someone's afraid to lose their job, right? They're afraid to document something to HR, but maybe now that it's documented, the boss really has to be on his toes because it's in writing and it went to HR.
Absolutely. And a lot of things that we see is escalation. I mean, if you don't stop it, it just continues to get worse.
Oh, it won't stop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it won't stop.
I read something the other day about, I think it was J-Lo. She was at some sort of audition, and they asked her to, take off her shirt, and she said no, and the guy, backed off a little bit. I mean, you got to put an end to it. Otherwise, what we see a lot is escalation. It's a small one comment, then touching, then it keeps going, and it keeps getting worse, and it really impacts people, impacts their lives. I've had clients tell me, grown men, adults, that they're driving home, they pull aside of the road, and they just scream, or they're just upset, and these things really impact
You
people.
mean because men are being harassed?
They're being harassed, they're being hostile,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
discriminated against. It
sexual.
doesn't have to be sexual.
Hostile workplace.
Absolutely. It can be about ethnicity, it can be about the way they speak, or their accent, or the way they write emails, the way they use grammar. I mean, people can be pretty hostile in various ways. Discriminatory based on ethnicity, race, you name it. So you got to document it. You can't be afraid of retaliation, because you're protected by retaliation.
Yeah, and like we just discussed, when you send that email or notify human resources, it's documented. So if the...
Yeah, but I mean, we also recommend BCCing or blind copying, or keeping a copy for yourself, because there's no guarantee that email will always be saved.
And if you have a case already that an attorney feels, like one of you guys feels that it is a case, then definitely CC your attorney. Now, I was once in a situation where I was a very young guy, and I thought I was really smart. It was different. I had a contract. I was doing some sales work for somebody, and they gave me a deal. It was like commission only, and I started making too much money. They didn't like it. Wait, we don't want you to be commission only anymore. So I started documenting it, but when I answered them back in a letter, I CC'd like 3 attorneys that I was friends. They weren't my attorneys, but it makes them take notice. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it helps. And so that's why, to our listeners, valiantlaw.com, VALIANT. Do I know how to spell? Valiant Law. And these guys are Raymond Babayan and Cameron Shahabi. Really great guys. Stan Katz at Talk Radio 790 KABC. Come back on the other side.